Hello and welcome to the Finance Chief podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and I'm really looking forward to today's session. We're going to take a look at a subject that's getting significant focus right now, the US Treasury clearing mandate, a sweeping set of rule changes by the US Securities and Exchange Commission designed to make financial markets safer and prevent major crashes. Thankfully, I have a willing expert by my side here and ready to go. Stephen Roche, president and co-founder of Sapphire. Now, Stephen has more than 20 years of enterprise technology, SaaS, sales and consulting experience, giving him a practical perspective on how large institutions adopt innovation, modernize operations and scale new technology. He and the team at Sapphire help some of the largest financial institutions to reduce operational risk, improve efficiency and accelerate trade readiness. Stephen, great to have you with us. How are you doing?
Doing well, Matt. Thank you for having us. It's been a while for us to be joining you guys here. It's happy to come back after some time. So it's been great.
Fantastic. Well, you're always welcome, and it's great to have you. But look, we've got a lot to get through. Let's jump straight into it. I suppose with a context question of sorts. US Treasury clearing mandate, obviously one of the biggest structural market shifts for some time. With the cash clearing deadline coming up on December the 31st of this year, I think. What's the current state of market readiness? What are you hearing when you're talking to institutions and to your customers? And for the CFOs listening in our audience, why should they in their organizations be keeping an eye on the transition?
Yeah, I mean it's a new thing. These things happen every so often, and a lot of the buy sides or the asset managers, investment managers out there think their clearing brokers have a handle on this. And so they don't necessarily focus on it or care as much. I mean, they do care because they want to be able to trade and clear when the time comes. It's more of an onus to the sell side brokers, clearing brokers that are out there. When you look at it, it's actually two mandates, not just one. So you have the cash clearing mandate that's at the end of this year, but then there's another one in June 2027 around repos.
Oh, yeah.
So the reality is, cash is just a new phenomenon in this whole scenario, because every single fund, let's say for the last 40 years now, may be included in this process because cash is pretty much traded in every single fund. So now you have to repaper every single one of those funds. But the beautiful thing about this, even though there's two mandates, if you're doing the work for the cash, you're going to be able to also do it for the repos because there's going to be an overlap. So it can be a 2-for-1 benefit if you're using the right innovation or processes. Some firms are probably addressing this still the old way, which is hiring a bunch of paralegals and internal headcount resources to help address the mandates. I mean, you could talk about the hundreds to millions of dollars trying to address this. And then you still have the error-prone components of this as well. You might have these experts, these paralegals that can read documents, but the way the documents are structured from 40 years ago is very different from the last 5 years, right? As in trying to look for the right verbiage or the information for the underlying clients on those funds can be very onerous, and it's not necessarily scalable because the standards that existed 20, 30, 40 years have drastically changed. And that's probably what a lot of CFOs are not realizing when they're trying to address the mandates is there a smarter way to handle this? And as well as the submission to the FICC, the fixed income currencies. I forget the acronym exactly, but on the FICC, a lot of the clearing brokers want to have an API to them, but they're not going to give them a custom API to every single of these large clearing brokers. So what we have announced is a partnership with FIC, where we do a custom API for all our clients, mutual clients, for FIC as well as these clearing brokers, so that they can help submit this information, quickly in bulk potentially, right? Instead of having to work with that manual process of dealing with paralegals, now they can streamline this down to a process that's more manageable, especially with now that we're down to almost less than 6 months away for the cash component here. But there's a lot of implications because, obviously not just the penalties you pay, but the client support reputation you have for your investment managers and asset managers.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. A lot to pick through there. Repapering, I know obviously something that you and the team talk about a lot and are there to address as such. The huge scale of that, potential mess, bottlenecks and so on. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about some of the impacts of relying on those manual processes or not getting your house in order when it comes to, I guess, some of the things that Sapphire talks about, automation, organizing your data and your structures properly. How can doing that properly impact in a positive way?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just stick for now the example of the clearing mandate. If they're not handling their paperwork or getting the underlying clients for the sponsored membership agreements, by the end of this year, you might have frozen accounts. You're not going to be able to start, trading. You're not ready to clear. And that's a loss of business, potentially a loss of reputation, especially if your peers are ready to clear. Never mind the fines you might be ending up to pay. I mean, there's a big cost associated with not meeting that mandate. Now, in the past, I think when these regulations have come out, some firms have been able to lobby to delay the mandates. Uh, Usually that's well in advance, right? Maybe, a good 10 months to a year in advance. We're now in that 6-month window where the first mandate hits. I don't think that that's going to change necessarily. So there is a liquidity impact when you're risking the repapering at scale. But I'm sure we could talk more about Sapphire and what our business is and a little bit more. But on the mandate side, that's the impact that they're going to get for sure.
In the fast-moving world of global finance, information is your most valuable currency and your best friend. Finance Chief gives you the ultimate digital briefing for finance leaders. From deep dive reports and interviews with successful leaders, crucial daily insights on the stories and information that matters, white papers and research, and, of course, podcasts. Why not move from just following the news to mastering the trends, reshaping the C-suite, and gain a competitive advantage for you and your business? Visit financechief.com to read our digital magazine, sign up to our newsletters and subscription content, and listen to more exclusive podcasts. Join us today and be part of our fast-growing community. We'll see you there. We will absolutely, and thank you for that. And we will absolutely come on to how Sapphire is doing this and what you do. I guess if you're talking about lessons learned, and we talk about these kind of market changes, obviously 2024, the shift to T+1 stock settlement, another a shift, a change in the market. I mean, are there lessons from each of these kind of significant movements or evolutions or changes that institutions, organizations, and indeed the Sapphires of this world can kind of take and apply to the complexities of the clearing mandate, for example?
Yeah, for sure. There's a massive lesson from it. I mean, we made a big splash about the story, about the predictions we would see around the T+1 timeline when it first was initiated. We hosted an event called the T0 Premiere, where T0 meaning working your operations in a real-time fashion. We had Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank at our event. You guys covered that news back in May 1st of 2024, about a month out before the T+1 mandate was issued and instituted here in the United States. And a lot of people were worried about it. It was slightly complicated, but not that vast just yet because it's only the U.S. markets, or North America, I should say. And there's only two depositories. You have the DTCC and you have the Federal Reserve. So what a lot of firms did at the time to mitigate this requirement was to get a lot of headcount. That's part of the lesson that was here. And they used what was called like a follow the sun model. At different time zones, they had different people handling settlement issues in post-trade. And so the most egregious example was, when Tokyo wakes up after New York closed at 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. Eastern time, they literally had about 5 hours to help settle trades if there were issues. Okay. And so that was probably the most of that example there. They kind of managed it. There were some hiccups in the beginning, but it's not sustainable when T+1 in Europe comes in November of 2027. And why is that? Because every single country practically has two different, settlement jurisdictions with different regulations and steps that you have to consider. And the complexity just gets that much greater because now you have more time zones to deal with. And it becomes a compounding effect. So I don't think that follow the sun model, adding more headcount is going to be the answer. And everybody saw the example of that initially. And then there's a component around affirmations that's being done in the US, but Europe doesn't do that. So you have that component as well. And it's a similar story. It was what we just talked about, the US Treasury clearing mandate. And so when we're talking about, T0, it's like real-time settlement, but your operations has to work at T0 almost in real time, because when you have 5 hours or less, you just have to get ahead of that trade, right? And you just need more time to take care of it. And then just the philosophy around Sapphire is, hey, maybe there are things we could do before any trade's executed or when the fund's first created to eliminate a lot of these processes that exist to begin with.
Which leads us nicely into the next point I wanted to ask you about, that I guess pre-trade certainty. Obviously structuring, verifying data, getting a house in order as such, but before execution rather than I suppose, having to retrospectively fix problems or issues that you were talking about. Tell me about that first, why you do that, why that's so important. And then I guess for financial leaders listening, trying to get some insight there, how does moving that entire kind of automation process and really focusing on that data really accelerate your enterprise value, your strategic success?
I think what we've been trying to explain to the industry is that there's a way to change a paradigm shift in addressing issues. But let me go back to how they're addressing it today.
Yes.
The reason why there's a lot of investment in the post-trade is that they're reacting to traders. When the front office gets upset that their trades are failing, they tell the middle and back office, fix it. I spoke about this many times at your FinTech Live events. And the middle and back office rush to fix these settlement issues that occur. And so there are literally billions of dollars invested in the post-trade to help rush and speed the settlement process. There was a time when it was T+5. Now we're going into T+1. So before there was plenty of time and there's old archaic systems in place. And so the analogy I give to a lot of people all the time is that the industry is trying to fix crash planes, reassemble them, and get it to land to its destination. Okay.
Yeah.
But you don't have to fix crash planes if you just make sure they don't crash to begin with. And that's getting it in pre-trade. And that's our philosophy here. That's a much better business model. So when people start telling me, you can't handle the post-trade, there's so many things to do. You're right, because we're not in the business of fixing crash planes. We're in the business of never having them crash at all. It's
Absolutely.
much more superior business model, right? So what we're doing is we're structuring the information properly and providing memory. So our platform has 108 patents that remembers a data point entered and a document shared for life cycle of the fund, from fund inception to settlement. And so a lot of the work that we're doing in pre-trade, they are redoing in post-trade. It is unnecessary to do that if we already captured it and maintain that information or re-expose it in the certain use cases you need to for these faster settlement cycles. And that's just a paradigm shift, especially with the industry that has done things rigidly in old ways, and they're highly regulated, right? They're worried about the change. So that is the paradigm shift that we're working with. But the value is there today, and the clients that we're working with are starting to see that because they land first with the new fund launch. So we start with new funds because it's scratch. There's no legacy information. We're getting them ready to trade faster so they can start winning business from their clients, sending RFQs, winning those trades, earning more business. And then by happenstance, their settlement cycle is a lot more streamlined, right? So that's where our beachfront landing begins. And then the journey comes into how we're addressing post-trade.
Amazing. That's a great analogy as well. I mean, what are the challenges? Obviously, institutions, we talk about siloed data, still working across manual spreadsheets, emails, PDFs. From a challenge perspective of actually doing that, of achieving what you're setting out to achieve, where are the challenges in that? Because institutions, organizations, you must be dealing with vast amounts of complex and I suppose regulated data, for example.
For sure. And the thing is that my identical twin brother, Stephen Roche, the founder and CEO, he worked at these institutional firms for many years. One of them was JP Morgan. He worked there for about 5 years. And he thought the world worked like JP Morgan. But he shortly realized when he worked with consortium in partnership with JP that all the other banks didn't structure the data the same as JP Morgan. They didn't even structure the processes. They didn't have the same language. And so it's like talking French in France and writing in alphabets and then have to speaking Mandarin in China and using characters, right? It's completely different languages. It's vastly different. And even the processes, the customs, the etiquettes are also different. Somebody has to do the work in the industry agnostically to map the information between the institutions to get them to speak with each other. And so until you have data consistency and reliability, and that's part of it in our logo in Sapphire, we have this little Sapphire diamond. We're kind of trying to tell the industry we're a Rosetta Stone mapping the industry's information. So we actually remember, that's part of our patents, we remember the information between each institutional firm. So, even when you're looking at a firm like JP Morgan, they have an asset management arm, a broker-dealer arm, a prime brokerage arm, custodial business arm, and there's Chinese walls between each of them. And the data structure between each of them are also different on how they do things. They're not necessarily the same. And then just, if you took an example of a BlackRock, Legal & General, whoever trading with JP Morgan on a broker-dealer side, they may not custody their business with JP Morgan. So that data has to be partitioned away. And that's part of that structure that has to occur to help with the fragmented data in the industry. But today, the biggest challenge I would say is that when we were in the T+3, T+5 days, faxes were okay. Putting duct tape around things and rope around old processes and systems and handling things manually was acceptable. And then you have decades, literally multiple decades of handling these issues with fragmented data and these old processes. It's like looking at a Jenga tower. It's already unstable. They're afraid about taking a piece out and the whole thing falling apart. And so when a CFO asks their subject matter experts, how do we address this? Well, their experts only understand how to keep the Jenga tower up. Okay. They don't understand how to build something better. It's just two dichotomy worlds they're living in. And the best example analogy I could give around this is like in the 90s, I have my marketing team here today. There used to be a separate device for your cameras, a separate device for the audio recording. You had VHS or tape to back up the information. You had a separate device for a calculator. You have multiple devices that handle things, but now you have, your smartphone here that does all those things in one. Okay. And we move the data to the cloud. We don't keep storage for backup, VHS tapes, VHS tapes or whatever, or have CD-ROMs or DVDs. Like everything's now in the cloud. People are comfortable with the cloud. It's way more efficient. But if you talk to a person in the 90s that handled all that tape backup and handled multiple devices, they cannot conceive how to move to a cloud environment and work with a smartphone. That's never been done before. This is very scary. It's a concept that at the time would be inconceivable. So, but obviously we overcame it. And the question has to be asked, why are we still doing this work when we have smarter things to do that are more efficient? We don't have to use this Jenga tower to support things moving forward. And I think that's the evolution of learning how to do things in the financial industry.
That's fantastic. And you reminded me of DVDs, Stephen. I hadn't thought about DVDs for so long. You said the question is why still do it that way? I mean, why was it tolerated that way for so long? Is it just a case that the technology wasn't necessarily there? The suggestion to actually shift and evolve wasn't there? What's the reason?
It's just the confidence in industry experts that kept that structure the same. If you have 100-man team, and literally in some of these big firms, they have 100-man team handling all these issues, especially when you talk about post-trade processes. They're proud about keeping that team together and working on all that stuff and then incrementally improving on it. Yeah, I'm sure they're doing improvements, but it's like trying to convince people moving from 4 horses in the carriage to a combustible car engine. The questions are being asked. Well, I already have 4 horses. I only need 2 wheels. You know what I mean? Like I don't need everything that you have on there. And where's the hay? How do I feed the car hay? And then what do you do with the manure? Like that stuff doesn't exist anymore in this world. It's a different paradigm shift, and that's a slow evolution of understanding things. I mean, you look at finance; they were also risk averse to the cloud. Okay. Everything was on-premise solutions. And that's part of the fragmented data issue, because I may send you an Excel file, Matt, and then you send the Excel file to my marketing guy here, Michael Travers, but you added one extra line. Now the data is not consistent between me and Michael and yourself. And so we're reconciling the information and say, hey, which one is the reliable piece of information? But once you're in the cloud, that changes everything. If I'm on LinkedIn and I say I am in London with BizClick Media, you reliably know I am in London with BizClick Media. It doesn't say that I might also be in New York at the same time. And then we have to reconcile, call each other. This is what's happening in the post-trade and the fragmented world.
Amazing. So look, why don't you tell me more about how Sapphire's really helping institutions on this journey? Also, you mentioned your recent integration with the FICC. Maybe you want to tell me about that, and we come back to where we started a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think right now we're in the process of finalizing our APIs. There's 2 different APIs we're working with FIC on that component. And we're speaking to a lot of clearing brokers on the approach with their legal teams and how we could streamline this. So that's very exciting. A lot of things that we're doing to address these U.S. Treasury clearing mandates are some of the things that we'll be addressing when it comes to, for example, securities lending business. There are legal implications, there's clearing implications, credit risk implications. So you have all those things combined, and then you take it back to one of the core issues around settlements, T+1. The whole reason why the industry pushed to T+1 was around the Robinhood GameStop fiasco back, was it 2021, 2022, somewhere around there. And Gary Gensler came out, the head of the SEC, saying there needs to be a push for a mandate on a faster settlement cycle for T+1. But the core issue was that they didn't know if they overshorted or overbought shares at GameStop. So on Robinhood, they stopped everything. And that's just a glaring example of those issues. And so again, follow some model, adding headcount is not a smart way to address that necessarily. It's an okay temporary fix. But as more time zones and jurisdictions and T+1 becomes a global reality, then you need to be starting moving your operations to a T0 model. And so, CFOs may see, they look at technologies like ours as a operational expenditure, and firms pitch operational savings, efficiencies, all that kind of stuff, which is nice. CFOs, COOs like that kind of stuff, but everyone has that game. The way you get market adoption is usually, addressing the solution as a revenue driver, right? If you can tie it to new revenue, clients are more willing to adopt your technology and look at its multiple use cases. And so that's why another reason why we start in the pre-trade, because when we start a new fund onboarding, a new fund has launched, XYZ large asset manager won, let's say the Walmart pension fund, okay? Walmart pension fund's launching, they're going to want to start earning business quickly. Well, guess what? Firms will want to compete for that business and start sending RFQs, capital market firms want to send RFQs to start competing for that business. Well, for helping them get ready to trade and moving that, onboarding process, something that was 6 weeks to 18 months in the most egregious fashion, down to days. Literally, sometimes you could start be ready to trade tomorrow with something like FX spots. Now you have competitive advantages to start earning business more quickly. And so when you start practicing and realizing the more business faster, and I'm getting these operational efficiencies, these C-levels start to see a benefactor to adopting new technologies.
Amazing. Do you think that's a shift that still needs to happen? I suppose you were talking about that almost mindset shift for CFOs, for the people in charge of the wallet, let's say, of viewing technology as a tool, as an expenditure, to a revenue driver, a strategic asset almost. Is that something that still needs to happen more widely?
It definitely needs to still happen. It's just, the industry has been taught to be risk averse. It's all about risk, right? So they want to minimize their exposure to issues that occur with adopting things. They don't want to have a reputation risk with their clients. They don't want to have the technology not working, especially a smaller company. I mean, Sapphire's been here for nearly 10 years. We're going on to our 10th year right now. So we're a little bit more established, and we have an awesome reputation. Nearly zero churn. Almost no clients leave us. I mean, it's almost 100%, which is unheard of, okay? But only because the product and technology works and does what we say it does. And so that reputation helps. But 10 years is still vastly smaller than other super large multi-billion-dollar conglomerates that have been here for. And that also say that things can't be done the new innovative way for multiple reasons. One, because they don't understand it, but two, also maybe they cannot necessarily provide it and they're not as nimble to adapt to it because they have invested whatever it was into a different model or addressing the way the Jenga tower was built today. And fixing that Jenga tower makes sure it doesn't fall instead of just building a smarter one moving forward. I think that's the shift that needs to occur.
As long as people don't keep building different Jenga towers, I guess you'll be okay.
Shit.
So 10 years, you mentioned nearly 10 years. I mean, you must be developing all the time from a technology perspective. How rapidly do you have to change, evolve, improve, add new innovations, add new technology to the platform, and I suppose the way you're working with clients?
Yeah, I mean, that's the exciting thing about working on a company that you still have control over, right? Yeah. Is we maintain the vision that we're looking for in the company. We're excited about innovation. I think the only way you survive is by continuing to innovate and pushing the envelope. we subscribe to a theory of interoperability at Sapphire. We don't force people to use our workflow screens. We're happy to integrate with others. We know we're not going to get everybody. We want our tech and our core benefit, which is providing data integrity and consistency through the lifecycle of fund, and plug and play nicely with other existing vendors and solutions that are out there, whether it's a capital markets firm that develop internally or some third-party vendor that's out there. That's our moat that we're building here. But that moat also is applicable to other areas when it comes to, for example, blockchain technologies. Everybody's sitting on the sidelines waiting to see which one is going to be the dominant one to win because they don't want to adopt the blockchain technology and have their counterparty not on it. It's kind of like people waiting for, HD and Blu-ray. Which one's going to win before we start adopting that DVD platform? Oh, Blu-ray won? We all adopted. Okay, now everybody's on Blu-ray. Okay. It may take too long, but if you have a platform that normalizes data for you and does the orchestration, it doesn't matter what blockchain technology you're on, or which platform you're on. The translation would occur, whether you're on blockchain A or blockchain B or 1, 2, 3, whatever it may be. That is where we like on the innovation is building that mode of mapping, between different counterparties, different technology platforms, different blockchains. We've been working on that. And beyond that is all the use cases around AI. I mean, I've been an AI-based company from the beginning. Before it was rules process automation, where people would use our workflow screens and think it was machine learning because we understood the client experience. And for those that don't know what rules process automation is like, it's kind of like a branch tree workflow. If yes, you go this branch tree. If no, you got to go down this branch tree. And we understood the next step and the options that needed to happen during that life cycle experience that a client was using. So when they use it, they're like, oh my God, this is predictive. This knows exactly what I need to do next. And they've never seen this before, even in their own in-house grown workflow solution. So that was a good reputation for us to begin with, but we've been implementing machine learning components to our technology. And we are on the Microsoft Azure stack. So obviously we're using OpenAI, and that's inherently on our platform that we launched a year ago in June. Actually, we made this announcement right around this time, I want to say, where we talked about our AI agents that we put out there. And so one example of an AI agent solution we provide to our clients is we have an email ingestion component where we have multiple agents handling things. So when a client doesn't want to go through a portal with a broker-dealer and they're emailing the data and documents to start trading a new fund, we have an agent that reads text in the email, inspects it, makes sure it provides all the data it needs. We have another agent that inspects all the documents that are being supplied. We have an agent that replies back if there's data missing information from the documents. Hey, you uploaded a pizza menu. Please send the updated W8. Okay. Another one that also APIs it directly into any internal systems. And a fourth one that puts it together in any responses internally or externally back to the client. And you want to provide, a very small use case for the agents or a small job for it, because if you give it too much, it starts being inconsistent or forgetting information. So each of the agents have to have a very unique role and then work in cohesion. You have to have them work in cohesion between multiple agents to accomplish the solutions or the innovation you're looking to provide to your clients.
Great. I mean, it sounds endlessly exciting, and I absolutely love your passion for it. It comes through so clearly. I mean, we've talked about technology, AI. I don't want to press you on too heavily. We have to talk about AI. Everyone does. However, I guess following on from what you just said, I mean, if you take a step back from just what you're doing and look more broadly, where do you see the biggest application for AI? I suppose in finance over the next year or two. Where do you think the biggest key difference will be made with the technology?
I mean, it has to be instituted by every firm, whether you're a financial institution or healthcare or anything, right? So it's just another tool, but I still believe there's going to be the human element that needs to be involved. And
Sure.
AI, I think in finance, AI will give a false confidence to some institutions that want to build it themselves. Now, I think within their four walls of their firm, it could probably apply very well and work for them. But when it comes to working with their clients, especially clients that multi-broker or multi-custody, they're going to find a hard time with it, especially when you're talking about the different data structures I already covered earlier in this conversation, the different nomenclatures and language and processes that exist. When I talked about between Mandarin and French and English and all that stuff and alphabets and characters, okay, that is still going to persist. AI is not going to be able to determine, what the Mandarin characters are versus the alphabets that are out there if it's not mapped. You Google, how many planets are in the solar system. Okay, at different times there was 9, then there was 8, then we're back to 9, but the ninth is an exoplanet. What is an exoplanet? Like, it's not consistent. Okay, and the AI may provide you different information that you're looking to get, and maybe Asia thinks there's 8 planets and 1 exoplanet, and US thinks there's 9 planets, right? So there's a translation issue that occurs there. If I speak verbally to an AI agent, okay, or AI platform, and I say the word two, does it understand if I'm saying TO, TWO, or TO?
Sure.
It would not know.
Very important for numbers as well. Is that
right? And that's public information.
Yeah.
Now, the data structure of these financial institutions are private. Okay, they're not. It's not something that people necessarily understand, and so translating it has to happen on a private structure. And that's what we've been doing for nearly 10 years. So we're uniquely positioned for these financial institutions, using AI. They can still build their own AI, but it has to map to our data structure that we've done for the industry. If they're looking to provide their clients more benefits and earn more business more quickly, they haven't been mapping to the industry, over 10 years, especially if you're trying to acquire new business from clients that they'll do business with them today. Right? You're not going to find that unless you come to a platform that's already been doing it with your mutual clients, right? So that is one of the, I think, core issues that people have to keep in mind when it comes to implementing AI. Yes, AI will speed all your processes 100%. So you will move faster through the processes, but you also have more issues faster that already existed, but now will be compounding, and you're not sure where it originated. So you might have to backtrack more often, and it will create in some cases, more work than you anticipated.
Great. Okay, so let me ask you as a final point, Stephen. Bearing in mind everything we've talked about, the importance of data structure, those potential impacts of the clearing mandate that you talked about. I mean, what's the one kind of key takeaway that you would leave financial leaders with at this moment? What should they be looking out for with a view to looking at the changing regulations and those changing rules? And what's the key thing they can really do to prepare for now and I guess into the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, they need to start preparing for real-time settlement. I mean, it already exists in crypto, and that's a newer asset class than anything else. And people making money in crypto are going to expect it, if they get into the other traditional asset classes, they're going to expect those traditional financial institutions to be up to date on supplying real-time settlement. And if you think about it, if you're, let's say, a clearing broker, a broker-dealer, executing broker, you're trying to provide clients with a better service. If you can have real-time settlement, that means you can tell your investment managers, buy-side asset managers, hey, trade with me because I can settle faster, same day, in real time. And you can use that same money you just got back to your bank account to trade again with me. And I will even lower my fees because my operational costs are less. So it becomes almost like having a nuclear weapon. And once one broker-dealer shows that as an example, a successful example in the industry, every broker-dealer is going to have to copy that. Otherwise, they'll be left out. Okay. So the rush to getting to real-time settlement is a huge competitive advantage in the finance space. I think they should be looking for every type of innovation possible to get to that place. We think, what we're doing with Sapphire is a core feature to get an on-ramp to getting to that place. But yeah, I mean, the younger people out there that trade in crypto already see it and expect it. They're not used to waiting 2 days or tomorrow for their money to come back in if they want to make another trade. So I think that's an important factor besides the AI component, which I just covered earlier. I think those two combined are a big core feature, and all the concerns around data integrity and consistency in using AI.
Fantastic. A lot to think about and a lot to take away. Stephen, we've absolutely flown through that. It's been an absolute pleasure. But sadly, that's it from this episode of the Finance Chief podcast. It was great. I loved every minute of it. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had a good time as well.
I did. I appreciate the time, and I'm happy to come back whenever you guys would like to have me.
It's always great to talk to you. I think we all learned a lot there, and thank you so much for shedding light on some important changes that are coming up. Hopefully some good takeaways from our audience. Stephen, thank you again for joining us. It's been fantastic having you with us, but that is it from us for this week from the Finance Chief podcast. We'll be right back with you next week for another installment. In the meantime, remember you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and you can visit us over at our website. Thanks again to Stephen, and thank you for joining us, and take care, everybody. Thank you.